Blade Vampire Nation issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. It says issue number 1, but this is just a one shot. And this is from the pages of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers. I have not been reading the Avengers. The only Marvel thing I've been reading is Ghost Rider. So I'm not all familiar with what the hell is going on in this universe. But thankfully there's a brief little summary in the beginning. So Dracula formed a nation of vampires in Chernobyl, over which he rules. The UN and the Avengers agreed to recognize the new nation's sovereignty only under the condition that Blade serve as sheriff, enforcing law and order among the vampire citizens against Dracula's wishes. How the hell does the UN and the Avengers have the power to create a nation of vampires in a Ukrainian territory? Especially seeing what's going on with the whole Russia-Ukraine situation right now. Whatever, I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, I guess Chernobyl is now a city run by Dracula, and it has a bunch of vampires. It's a sovereign state, in a sense. And we start off with some kind of black helicopter going into this building, and they're looking for this specific hatch. And they pull it out. It's like a coffin. Meanwhile, they're being chased down by vampires. They get to the rooftop where their extraction helicopter gets blown up. They open up the coffin to expose it to the sunlight, killing the person inside, which happens to be Corvus. And all the soldiers end up getting killed. The final one ends up committing suicide. And yes, so Corvus is a member of the Vampire Council, and he was assassinated. And he was like one of the right-hand man of Dracula. And Dracula is trying to figure out who did this. And Blade, as the sheriff of the city, it's his job to find out who were the soldiers, who sent them. At first, I was like, you have their equipment, you have their weapons, you have their gear, you have what's left of the helicopter that they were riding in. All those should have some kind of serial number. You should be able to trace all that. I mean, that's how we do it in the real world. So it would be nice if they did that. Eventually, we find out that this was a mercenary group. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, so who hired this mercenary group? I would like to little something like, we try to run the serials on the equipment that we were able to get our hands on, but it came back empty. Their uniforms doesn't match any known uniforms of any known country's uniforms. Just something like that, so we know. Because throughout half of this issue, I'm just thinking to myself, why didn't you do that? But yeah, eventually he goes to meet this other governor, this vampire. And this vampire also has a beef against Dracula, but he doesn't want to do anything to upset the balance. So he gives Blade some information. He's like, here's all the information we have, all the surveillance photos we've scraped. There were 4 mercenaries, but we were able to kill all of them. And Blade knows that he's lying because he's like, you guys said there was 4, but there's clearly 5 in this photo. So he's trying to figure out where this 5th mercenary is. And he ends up bumping into this woman who, it turns out she's one of the mercenaries. When the crap was hitting the fan, she bailed out. She ran away rather than completing her mission. And she basically explains that her family owns the security company that arranged the operation. And that all the other mercenaries that were with her, all their families were being held hostage. Basically, they were forced either accomplish the mission or die. And if you try to abandon your post or anything like that, if you give up who hired you, we will murder your family. She was the only one that's okay because her family owned the security thing. So obviously they're not going to kill themselves. But yeah, they discovered that they were actually going after Dracula. They weren't trying to get COVID. Someone gave them information to where exactly the crypt was, the specific hatch, and their mission was to kill Dracula. But it turns out that at the last minute, Dracula ended up not going, and instead the hatch was replaced with Corvid. So Blade's like, all right, now there's some kind of conspiracy thing going on here. Did Dracula set up Corvid? If so, why? If not, how did these mercenaries know exactly where to go? Who's the one giving them the information? And I'm going to stop it there. There's more, but I don't want to spoil anything. I will say that this is awesome. I actually really like this. It was really intriguing. The artwork is good. Blade as a sheriff is kind of weird, but it's like a take that I'm interested to see. Like here you have this famous vampire hunter, and now he's forced to work in this country, the sovereign country run by vampires, and he has to basically keep the peace. That's like a really interesting take. The problem though is that this is all that it is. At the end, it just says Blade's Adventures continues in All Out Avengers. And it's like, I don't care about that. I want to read more about Blade and his role in this vampire city. I don't care about Captain America and Captain Falcon and all the other adventures. Like, I don't want to read that. I want to just read about Blade. So yeah, it's like this issue sets up a lot of world building and a lot of interesting things that we could go. Like, there's so much we can do here. And it's just kind of like, but that's all you're going to get. You're going to get little snippets, but you're going to have to read the adventures for those little snippets. And it's just a huge shame, especially coming from Marvel, who, like DC, they're basically trying to pump out every freaking thing that they can. Why not have Blade have his own series? Just have a Blade Vampire Nation series. This was awesome. Like, there's so much potential here, but nah, we're not going to get that. Instead, this is it. This is all you're going to get. Like I said, you're just going to get little snippets, but you got to read the Avengers for those little snippets. So that's a shame. But yeah, issue itself was good. You get your conclusion to this little mystery. Like I'm not going to spoil it in case anyone wants to read it, but you find out how the mercenaries knew. You find out what happened, why Corvid was killed, and all that stuff. So at least they answered that, which was great. They don't leave it open-ended. But it's one of those things where even though you get your conclusion, there's still so much set up that we could keep the story going. And it would have been nice if they did. So yeah, good one shot. Leaves me wanting more. Shame that this is all we're going to get. So there you go. There's Blade Vampire Nation. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.